to Minnesota Republican Congressman Jason Lewis on all of this. Congressman, what do you make? Here's Anthony Scaramucci coming in, a Wall Street Titan, former contributor on this very network. Very much respect in the financial community. I guess Steve Bannon's concern with him is that he was too tied to that community. Of course, now it's an administration filled with financial community types, including at least 3 Goldman Sachs alum. But what do you make of all that?
Well, I think presidential missteps early on are about as common as the day is long, from the Bay of Pigs to the failed Hillary care during the Clinton administration.
You're absolutely right about that.
This is going to happen early on. This is going to happen early on. Is it a little more intense with this administration? Probably. But look, if we can get some leadership, especially on economic issues coming out of the White House, and I mean rhetorically, I think that's a good thing. And we'll see what happens with the new communications director.
Congressman, wouldn't that mean that Scaramucci would have to be that face in front of the media, in front of these reporters for these briefings?
Well, I don't know what the administration is going to do on that, but the day James Comey testified, that was all over the news. It was also the day we repealed and replaced Dodd-Frank in the House. That didn't get covered. So we're doing things, and you got to get the spotlight on the things we're doing. Look, I didn't come here to Washington to talk about the drama at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I came here because we have a debt crisis, we have a tax reform crisis, or we need to do tax reform. But we've got all sorts of problems going on, a health care crisis to be sure, Medicaid and entitlement crisis. That's what we need to be talking about and addressing. So anything we can do to put the ball back on policy instead of politics, I'm in favor of.
You know, Congressman, you mentioned about some of these other developments. Sometimes they come, no offense to the president meant here, at the behest of the president. That Comey firing, the timing, though it was, well, and some of these other things, like talking to the New York Times about Jeff Sessions and the whole thing that's refestered at a time I'm sure you didn't want to see it refester.
No, but the reason is it takes our attention off of the policy changes we're trying to make. We all know that health care right now isn't working, and the people that preserved Obamacare last week are sending us to a single-payer government-run system. There's a news report out of the National Health Service in the UK that 1 million patients a week can't get to see their GP now. The waiting lines are at a record, and that is the direction we're going in health care, thanks to the failure of the Senate, quite frankly. And that's what we ought to be talking about, Neil, not the latest drama.
If you had to advise the president on this, and talking to the New York Times on Jeff Sessions, and talking about, things that he has to later take back, or his press people are trying to take back, I don't know what role Scaramucci will play in trying to dial that sort of thing back, or get the administration back on message, what would you say?
I would say stay focused on policy. The president won on policy. And by the way, for all the troubles the Republicans supposedly have had in the mainstream press, the Democrats are totally adrift at sea, which is why the Republican party's won all of the special elections. I believe it's 5-0.
Yeah, you're right about it.
So we need... If we focus on policy, we've got the right agenda. We just passed a budget. I'm on the budget committee. Out of that committee last week that finally addresses tax reform, finally addresses entitlements, mandatory spending cuts over the next 10 years of $203 billion. If you focus on that, we win. Don't get sidetracked by the drama.
All right. Well put, Congressman. Thank you very, very much.